Welcome back to episode 89. So, if you remember, this is part 2. Part 1 was getting that cluster looking all nice, shiny and rosy, ready to go back in the car. And in this video, I'm going to get it back in the car, I promise. Actually, restoring it was not really that problematic. The polishing the glass, I was quite pleased how that came up. And everything, it looks really good. What I am worried about is the little connectors on the back. And when you're trying to put it inside the dash, I worry, there's so many bits of metal and stuff in there, I worry that those sort of very fragile connectors are going to snag on something and snap, so super careful there. I have no idea how to put it back in. I think you're going to realise that pretty quickly. But let's just try. I like to just dive in there, as you know. Let's get in there and see how it goes. Please remember, click that like button, click subscribe. Leave me some comments, tell me how I should do it, how I shouldn't do it. But let's just get in and see if I can get it fitted in this video. Okay, today's task then is to finally fix in this cluster that I've been rebuilding for probably 2 months, maybe even a bit longer. So I'm just going to pull this off. This is only just rested on there. Put it in the back of it and then slide it on. And then we worry about how we get the connectors back on. I think it's only the central connector here that I need to do before actually putting it in there. But let's have a look. So I'm going to store it over here for a moment on the spare seat, passenger seat, and we'll take this off. So that's where we are at the moment. Now all we need to do is have a good look underneath there and work out where the bolts go. Okay, I gave up trying to do it the short way, and I'm going to try and take this actually off, put the fittings in and then put it all back in together. I think the way I'm doing it is just going to cause more problems. I'm never going to get there and probably end up breaking my cluster. So let's do it properly. Right, I can't get it in on my own, or certainly not while it's in the dashboard in the car. So I've taken this out now completely. I'm going to get it on the bench and actually work out how to do the mountings. Probably put the cluster in and then we come back and fit it properly. That's the plan anyway. Right, the trick here then is to mount the cluster in, and then we go this side and put this is the one with the little dog leg. You put that in first, slide the cluster in there. This side, all I've done is place the, I'm not sure if you can see, there's like a rubber washer mounting bracket. Put it in like that. Now I'm going to try and offer it up and see if I can get it to fit. I need to just double check this is right. That one's fine to put in like that, I think. Actually, I believe I can probably put this side because the actual mount it goes into has got a slot, if you see. This side, this is by the ignition on the driver's side. There's the screw, that hole there is the one that the bolt goes in here. But this side, because it's slotted, I can probably wind it in a bit and then just slot it in. Right, that's a lot of shoulds and coulds. Let's see what it actually will do. And I've just reminded myself that I've got the added complication that I've got all of these switches out now. So I'm going to have to sort of thread them back in somehow, and I don't really know how, but let's have a look. every step is a learning, I don't know what, but let's have a look and see if I can get it to work. What I'm really worried about is the cluster dropping out and breaking. So I'm just doing it very gently, making sure it is actually bolted in. It appears to be. Got it. Okay, we're in. Well, these 5 connectors are poking through this cluster thing again. I hope that was as much fun as it was for you as it was for me. I appreciate a lot of this is not spectator sport, but those are in. Now what I'm going to do is connect up the back of the instrument cluster. I need to get that on. Then I'm going to poke the actual switchgear back into place. Then we can put the connectors underneath. I'm just wondering whether I should do that before I do the bolts. We'll have to see about that. But that's enough for the minute. My hands hurt, so I'm going to stop there for a little while. And then when I come back, we'll finish up, and then we're going to actually try it out. So I've managed to get these 4, 5 lights back in, and I've just pulled it forwards and stuck on the back connector. It was pretty unexciting, so I didn't bother videoing it. Now we're in that side. Let's check our connector. Still there. Still got to connect to both sides. So now all I need to do is, I've still got all of these connectors at the bottom. I'll worry about those later. Now what I need to do is get underneath and put the bolt in that holds so like a dog leg connector over here. I showed you it earlier. Get that one in, and I think we're pretty good. This is very tatty. I do need a new one of these at some point, but you know, one step at a time. Okay, not bad. Right, so I've just put the last bolt in under here. It's pretty straightforward. And we're ready. I've connected the battery up. We're ready for the first turn on. So I'm just going to turn the key. And then we've got something. So we've got a fuel gauge that's come up to full. So I think we can probably guess what's happened there. We've got a speedo that's gone up to 90 miles an hour for some reason. And we've got a warning light on the battery, which sounds correct. And we've got a stop light out. That's probably not connected up. I'll start the car up in a little while. I need to get I just want to do this last little bit and put a wheel back on. And then we can actually start and see what it is. Now I'm sure it means something when that goes up. I think there's like some message it's trying to tell me there. Apart from it's broken. And I'd like to know what that is. So if anyone knows when your speedo goes up to certain numbers, please let me know. I've gone over the indicator cluster, whatever you call it, and sort of I've just sprayed a lot of WD-40 inside there and a bit of electrical cleaner just to flush it out. And I've put grease in, so that will slowly work its way in there. It's already feeling a little bit cleaner, a bit smoother. Let's plug it back in, which should be straightforward. Right, finally it's in. It was a lot harder than I think it should have been. It just needed this front bolt taken out fully, and then it all dropped into place. I'll quickly wind that bolt back in. When I drove down the road last time, I realised I hadn't actually got this bolt in, so steering wheel wasn't even held on. That's fine. Okay, so I'll just get the tool, then we can put that in, torque it up, and we're good. Right, often I struggle to remember why I was doing something, but the cluster, the whole reason for the cluster work was because I wanted to know what the fuel level was, because it seems to burn a lot of fuel. So we started on that whole journey of checking the wiring and everything that's gone before, and we've now got a cluster that is almost finished. So now back to the fuel sender. So the fuel sender's in there. I can measure the resistance across it and check what it is, but I don't know which of these connectors it is. So fortune has it, I've actually got a spare sender unit here that moves. You can hear it going up and down inside there. So all I'm going to do is put my ohm meter across the connectors. I think it's these two. Put it across there, and we'll go up and down and just check that we're getting a different number. Then I know which connectors to check on here, and therefore the corresponding wire. Check it back to the fuse board, check it across to the cluster, and theoretically we should be good to go then. Right then, so putting 2 wires on the end here. I've done the 2 I think it is, and we're getting 71 on the ohm meter, down to 5 for that's it up the top. If I can convince it to slide down again, all the way down. 71, midway sort of 45, back down, 71, back down there, down to 7, 71 again. Okay, so I'm pretty happy that we've got the correct connectors, and you know, 70, I seem to remember more than 70 when I did this first time around. This I've not serviced, so it could be a bit ropey inside, but we're getting 5 all the way down to, let's call it 71. So let's put those same wires then across the connectors on my sender that's in the fuel tank. There's one. There's the other. And we're getting 75. Knowing what this car's like, it probably is right down the very bottom. It probably is out of fuel, and a little tap on my spare fuel tank and I've got no fuel in it either. So I can't top it up to find out. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think what I probably should do then is go and get some fuel. We'll top this right up. We'll put, that's a 25 litre tank, canister. So that's probably, these are probably 60, 50, 60 litres, something like that, 60, 70 maybe even. So I should be able to bring it up to sort of a third, maybe even halfway if I do a couple of runs. But either way, I'm getting correct resistance from here, and it's saying it's low. So now we can trace that to the front of the car. Okay, so I think probably it's worth me taking the fuel sender out and just checking what's going on in there. I reconditioned it about, it's probably a year ago now, but it's probably worth just having a second look at it. I'm gonna try and take out the fuel sender now. I've undone all the wiring and the nut that's, or the pipe, sorry, the overflow pipe. So there's the sender. Oh, hello. It should. Let's pop it in there. It should be okay. Now I can actually look down inside and see how much fuel is in there. It doesn't look like there's a great deal, so, you know. No, it's just a splash at the bottom. So maybe that's correct that it's not reading very high. What we could do is just, and don't worry, I know that this has got fuel inside it. I'm just going to pour it out in here, but I want to hear the slider go up and down a little bit, so at least we know something's happening. So let's have a listen. Yeah, that works really nice, doesn't it? You can hear that, it's really super smooth. So seeing that, let's get the ohm meter on it. So it's sitting at 80 ohms at the moment. Down to 15, back to 84. So I mean, what has popped off? One of the wires. Oh, okay, the wires dropped off here. Not a problem. I can put it back. There we go. So I'm very confident in that float. No problem with that at all. So I think we just don't have much fuel in there. Right, I've inspected the sender and I'm not happy with my original one. Although it moves smoothly, one of the wires looks a bit dubious inside. So this is actually my spare. So I popped it in, you can see the meter reading at the moment. The resistance reading. So I'm going to start topping it up and let's just check that does move. Give me a second to pour. Right, first start, let's see what it does then. So that's ignition on. RPM seems to be working. Struggling to tick over a little bit. I just lift the RPM up a little bit. Now, petrol gauge looks like that's probably about right. RPM still struggling to stay alive. Probably about right. Fuel pressure's up. Battery's sitting about 11, I guess. Probably right. Let's just let it warm up a little bit. But at least the petrol gauge looks like it is working. I've got another 20 litres in the canister, so I'll fill it up in a little while after this run, and we'll see that it comes up again even higher. That's me trying to rev up a little bit. So lots of backfiring, so it's clearly running a bit dubiously. I've taken my foot off the accelerator now, so we can just let it sort of warm itself through. So one more just sort of warm start. All seems to be working. I can't tell if the speedo works, but every other dial seems to be doing its job. Apart from maybe oil pressure, just sort of sits up high here. That warrants looking at, but otherwise everything works okay, I think. Well, again, I say each week I'm going to wrap up there, and I think that's a pretty successful week. So to recap then, I have now taken the cluster fully apart, tested everything on it, pretty much everything. Okay, there's a couple of bulbs I didn't do. I've taken apart the actual cluster housing, polished the glass, washed out the black interior, reassembled, put the cluster back in with 2 new face dials on the speedo and the tacho. All looks pristine. Put it all back together, put it back in the car, bolted on the whole cluster, the black surround thing, whatever you call that, plugged it all up and tested it. And I haven't actually tested the speedo. I've reversed backs and forwards on the driveway, but not fast enough to register. And to be honest, I didn't actually look. I should have gone for a drive down the road. But we've seen the fuel gauge working, the temperature is working, the revs are working, the oil pressure is pinging up high, so it's doing something, and the alternator seems to be working, so that's really cool. Indicators work, I've seen the lights work, the headlights work. I'm trying to think what other bulbs are on there. There's the stop warning light is on, which presumably is the brake lights, which probably this bulb gone or they're not connected up, who knows. But I think that's pretty decent. So I'm going to wrap up there while I'm ahead. Very pleased with that. So as ever, thank you for watching. Please click the like button, click the subscribe button, leave me some comments. Definitely click the like button though, that's the biggie for me at the moment. And 2,000 subscribers, so click the subscribe button after you click the like with subscribe. If you can click them both at the same time, do that as well. Next week, I think I did a little bit of work with the auxiliary air regulator, so I'm going to be focusing in on that, wrapping that up, and I'll show you why. You'll all come true in the next week. You'll see why it was running rough earlier. But that's it for now. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.